The Biden document dilemma continues, and Republicans are springing into action and demanding release the logs, release the files, release everything. Open up all of the seat cushions from Joe Biden's house and see what is in there, see what kind of confidential classified materials we can shake out of the cushions. In this video, we're going to talk about the actual demands from the Republicans, Representative Comer, seen here, and Kevin McCarthy. They're in charge of the House of Representatives now, and they're saying, we're coming in hot. We're not playing around anymore. They sent a letter over to Ron Klain demanding more access. But before we go through all of the latest updates, let's see what our president is up to, because he just returned home and he's walking across the lawn at the White House. And, you know, over the last couple days, over the weekend even, we've seen a number of additional documents come out. We've gone through the timeline here, and there's a video that we dropped over the weekend, if you missed that, that assembles new facts on the timeline. And we just keep finding new documents. A new batch came out, 5 of them on Saturday. My goodness, where are all of these things falling out of? And so as Biden is walking across the lawn, you can see that a lot of other people have the same questions that we do here. Is he dropping classified documents out of his pockets? Can somebody check the inside of his coat?
Mr. President, are you sure there are no more classified documents?
I think I saw one fly out of there, right there. Oh, there it goes. It's up in the wind. Oh, flying away. Classified documents all over the place.
Mr. President, are you sure there are no more classified documents?
No, he's not sure. The White House is not sure. They have no idea. They don't know if they've got them all, because there are so many crevices that Joe Biden has been involved in Washington over the last however many years. It's disgusting. But there are a lot of questions about this. And some of those questions are coming over from the news media. In fact, here's Jake Tapper. He's assessing all the damage that was done by the White House, and he's sitting around with his colleagues. CNN's Jake Tapper is having a nice conversation with a bunch of, I'm sure, very estimable individuals, talking about Biden's confidential document problem. And he makes an observation that many of us have made. That garage doesn't look all that secure.
He was referring to the photograph of the Biden garage. I don't know what your garage looks like, but here's the photograph. So there's Biden in his sweet 1967 Stingray. But look on the back left there. I don't know if we can push in there, but that looks like a mess. That's worse than my garage.
Yeah, it's a mess.
That's worse than my garage.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that's not...
Yeah, Jake Tapper's garage. I can imagine his garage. You know, it's probably very fastidious. Although, who am I kidding? My garage is pretty fastidious myself. But you can see here, Sloppy Joe with just lampshades all over the place. Why do you keep an extra lampshade around? You don't need extra lampshades, okay? Put it up or donate it to Goodwill, Joe. Unless it's covering Hunter's bong. You know, those have big, long stems. He might have a couple footer there that needs to put a little cap on that to make sure that nobody can see it right up here.
Where I don't know exactly where the documents are in that garage, but that does not look like what a secure location would be.
No, it sure doesn't there, Jakey Poo. It doesn't look like that at all.
Where the documents are in that garage, but that does not look like what a secure location would be.
No, it doesn't, Jake. He's literally laughing at him. Like the rest of us. We're all laughing at him. All of us, even Jake Tapper. Humor binds us all. All right, so Jake Tapper's having some fun. He's going, this is a disaster. Now, we'll see, right? He's probably going to bring on a Republican and say, how dare you, sir? So we'll just wait for that one. But at the moment, he's laughing on that clip. Now, there's a little bit more serious tone that comes out of Peter Doocy, who is one of our favorites over at the White House. Long clip here. Let's go through it. Doocy calls into Fox News. It's the voice of Peter Doocy, White House correspondent. And let's see what they have to say.
Transparency. And I'm going through my notes, comparing what I heard at that press briefing yesterday with what we're learning today. And just a few things from my notes that we heard the press secretary say, keep in mind the day after they knew even more documents were located. She said, this is a quote, "We have been transparent." She said, and this is a quote, "This has been done in a transparent way."
Not at all.
She said, another quote, "We are not avoiding anything here." They knew on Thursday night that there were more documents. That's what they're telling us about today.
Yeah.
And yet on Friday. They claimed transparency. We now know that is just not the case.
At all. And so what he's talking about is the timeline that we spent some time putting together, but let's just revisit it real quickly here, because Ducey brings up an excellent point, right? The cover-up is almost worse than the original crime. Everybody understands, okay? Even in the Donald Trump case, we were joking here, calling it overdue library book, saying they're making much ado about nothing. This is a political show of force. They're trying to charge him with crimes that Hillary got away with, that Obama got away with. And, they all probably have classified confidential documents roaming around all over the place. Who knows what, it's a giant federal bureaucracy. Do you think that all of their documents in order? Give me a break. So even with Trump, right, we say much ado about nothing. We were getting lampooned here by other people out there in the media, on Twitter, these arguments, not us necessarily, nobody cares. But, the idea that Trump was this monster criminal was insane to us over here. Now, same type of, I think, of a thing here, right? Okay, we understand that overdue, library books can be overdue and documents can be missing, and there is a process, I'm sure of it. And we all want classified documents to be secured in this country as a general rule. We don't want them floating around the ether. But their standards started all of this. They raided his residence, not the other way around. So they get to eat their own cooking. Point is, let's go back to this timeline. Now, all of that was what started it. All right, let's say Joe Biden does screw up. He is in possession of classified documents. He doesn't remember where he is. All right, do I think he should go to prison for that? Probably not. But when he covers it up, that adds much more to this entire saga. And Trump didn't do that. Everybody knew that Trump had the documents. He told them he had the documents. He said, they're my documents. And they said, no, they're not. We're going to come and get them. Joe Biden didn't know about the documents. And then when they found them, they covered them up to the American people. Now, what Peter Ducey was talking about in that first minute, we're coming back to him, is he's saying after the story broke, January 9th, CBS breaks the story. He's talking about Thursday night. Thursday night would have been the 12th. Okay, the 12th was probably right around this time after the announcement. We had press briefings from Karine. We covered all of that. But she came out and she lied by omission on January 11th. Remember, because we were only talking about the first batch of documents. We didn't know about batches 2, 3, or 4 yet. They had not been released to us or unveiled to us. But the White House knew about that because they knew all about that as far back as December 20th, which is when Biden's personal counsel, the person we still don't know who that is, has communicated to the new U.S. Attorney Lausch that new documents had been found, the second batch. So by the time the story broke and by the time Karine was dragged in front of the American people to explain all of this, she knew about batches 1 and 2. And she got asked on that day, was there anything else, outstanding? And she said, look, I'm just not going to go into it any further, which is a lie by omission. She knew perfectly well. And batches 3 and 4 evidently showed up after the fact. Because Biden's lawyer goes, oh, crap, I got to get on a plane, flies out of the White House, special counsel Richard Stauber, jumps on a plane, flies over to Delaware in Wilmington because nobody has security clearances to look at these things. So Biden's personal lawyers who don't have security clearances, why were they there in the first place? And why are these other people going and rummaging through all of his documents when they can't access it? So that's the update on the timeline. Let's go back to Peter Ducey now as he carries on and explains more of his notes. He's saying this timeline is looking very fishy, and it feels like they are trying to manipulate some of the evidence and cover some of this up.
Well, and that's what the special counsel is trying to figure out. But something else that's really interesting that we did not know, that we're just learning today for the first time. They're telling us that the president's personal attorneys who are being assigned to go and see if there's any classified information don't have active security clearances. So every time that they find something, they have to stop. And it sounds like because they keep telling us they're finding all these additional documents, there is a lot of searching and then stopping and then calling the Justice Department and saying, hey, we have some stuff here that we can't look at. Don't know how it got here, or at least not prepared to share how it got here. But we need somebody with a security clearance to come by. But the timeline here is what is ultimately the problem, because
timeline,
Julian, as you know from working in the national security part of the government.
Timeline. The timeline, the revelation, the cover-up is way worse than just a couple documents. And they knew about a lot of this, and they held it from us. And even when they started talking about it, they still held it back. They didn't tell us about the December 20th documents.
This is something that happens. Like, people leave government, they discover that they have classified materials. There is a process where you contact the archives, they do a review, and then they figure out what's going on. Fine. But that's not what the problem is here. The issue is, number one, we're finding out that the president made some direction to his personal attorneys to cooperate with the National Archives, a search that began in November.
In November, why were they there? Why were they directed to go and start moving boxes out? Was it all routine? We also, where people were asking about their fee agreements and what it included, what's in the scope of representation, right? Lawyers, I am a lawyer. We have a law firm. We represent many, many people every year. And we have fee agreements that define the scope of our work. We're going to represent you on this case, not on that case. We're going to do this for you, but not that. And we don't put in there, we're going to come to your residence and, rummage through your cabinets. Now, to be fair, before I was a criminal defense lawyer, when I was an intern, I did some bankruptcy work, and I would go over to meet people at their houses and stuff like that. But that was defined in the scope of the work, and I wasn't going through their closets without them being there, right? I would go meet them at their residence and say, go get me that statement, go get me that record. But this is a whole different category. And what prompted it? What initiated the search in the first place?
Didn't know about it before the midterms. Didn't know about it all of December. Just finding out about it now. The other problem is somebody wrote, whether or not the president knew that he had all this material at his house, somebody wrote a statement for him to read on Tuesday in Mexico City, where he's just talking about one box, nothing concerning the residents. It's incomplete at best. It's misleading at worst. Was that on purpose?
Misleading at worst?
We just don't know.
Yes, it was, Peter. And so that was on Tuesday. So he was in Mexico on that Tuesday. That was the 17th. No, that was the 10th, the day after the story broke. So who prepared that statement? That's a great question. That would have been on the 10th. We'll have to add that to the mind map.
And Peter, real quick, one last question here. What do you think is going on in that White House press room right now with the comms team? They're seeing this breaking news. Obviously, the media is going to be picking up on it. You've been in that press room the last few days with some pretty contentious back and forth with Karine Jean-Pierre. They're now going to have to answer why they knew about these new documents Thursday night, but said nothing about it during the press conference yesterday.
This whole second batch of documents.
As they claim they are cooperating and they are being transparent. I believe it was you who asked the other day, what is the White House hiding? What do you think is happening in that PR room right now?
They're freaked out. They're freaked out, man.
I think that there's probably a lot of four-letter words that would not be suitable for broadcast in the press room right now.
They're freaking out.
The people in the press shop, and Karine Jean-Pierre was kind of alluding to this yesterday, they are being put in a tough spot by the president's personal attorneys and by the special counsel's office because Karine Jean-Pierre said that she was not involved in the decision to wait and wait and wait to disclose these discoveries to the public.
That's right. We have a clip of that when we played that last week. And I'm wondering if we have that here. Yes, we do. Let's dig this clip up. I just
want to press you on that point about the idea of disclosures when it's appropriate. You describe a process, but it sort of feels like a strategy, a communication strategy to protect the president from political damage. Was it the hope and expectation here that this would have remained a private matter and not have been subject to public disclosure?
Look, Stephen, that's your version of the case. I've been very clear here, and I've answered that question multiple times in different versions, right, in the last couple of days. Look, want to be very clear. There is a process here. We are going to respect the process. This is all part of the Department of Justice process, and we are cooperating fully. We are cooperating fully in this process.
That's great. And, but what did you do before?
Again, The president believes that the Justice Department and its independence needed to be restored. That's what you have seen under this administration the last 2 years. And I want to be consistent in what I'm saying. I want to be prudent in what I'm saying when I say that we are going to defer any questions related to this to the Department of Justice and any other items that you have. If you want to talk to the Department of Justice, you're free to talk to the White House counsel office. I know you guys have been in touch with my colleagues there.
We have done both, but let me just ask you, because oftentimes in the careers of White House press secretaries, there comes a time where they are asked, what they knew and when they knew it. Were you or any member of your staff involved in the crafting of a strategy as to when this disclosure should be made in advance of CBS News breaking the story on Monday evening?
No.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Okay, one more time. In advance of the CBS story being published. So just we're aware of that. That's what this date is. Right here. So from CBS, we have... Here, let's blow this screen up here. This was the timeline. All this happened before CBS broke the story. All of this. November 2nd, November 4th, November 8th, November 9th. Garland assigned U.S. attorney. Biden's lawyers are all over the place. Biden's lawyers find a second batch of documents. December 20th. Special counsel is needed after a briefing on January 5th. Apparently, Karine didn't know about it until after January 9th, right? According to that message. She said that, not us.
And when they knew it. Were you or any member of your staff involved in the crafting of a strategy as to when this disclosure should be made in advance of CBS News breaking the story on Monday evening?
No.
Before January 9th, were you involved? The answer is no. On the record.
Disclosure should be made in advance of CBS News breaking the story on Monday evening.
No.
Okay. All right. She said no. She said no. So I guess you have to take her at her word on that one. Karine Jean-Pierre didn't do it. So I guess I don't know what she was doing over those last couple months. Biden was handling all of this on his own. Then who prepared that message for him? That press message, that press release message on the 10th when he made that statement. I guess she could have right after the January 9th story breaks. She meets him and releases the story with him, I guess. But boy, it would be a big problem if she had met with him and talked about this stuff before then, because that would make her a liar.
But somebody was. And we don't know who. And so the press shop, you kind of have to sympathize with some of these guys a little bit, because they're just finding out about the drip from the personal attorneys, from the special counsel's office.
Yeah.
And so they've got their hands full. They I'm sure will take advantage of the federal holiday on Monday.
Yeah, today.
When we don't expect there to be a press briefing to,
there isn't one.
Make sure that everything is set.
There wasn't one, because why would there be? If they can avoid talking about this, they certainly can.
But at the rate they're going with all these disclosures, who knows? Maybe this isn't the last disclosure of the weekend. Don't know. Yep.
Well, we found one that came out on Saturday, and it is another 5 documents. So the timeline we're getting more clarity on. And we learned over the weekend, if you missed the weekend video, we learned that the actual documents were discovered on November 2nd, not on November 4th. They've been very, very sort of opaque with the timeline. And so we did a prior video on that. If you missed that, we really built out more of this timeline, and we're going to continue to do so. So that's what's going on over there. Now, Tapper says it's not a secure facility, and we have more to attend to because the Republicans are diving into this. And so let's take a look at what Kevin McCarthy says before we jump over to Representative Comer. The new Speaker of the House says that the Congress has a constitutional duty, a mandate to act as a co-equal branch of government and to hold other aspects of government accountable. Here he is.
Congress has an independent constitutional obligation to oversee
That's right.
all aspects of the Justice Department, and that includes special counsels as well.
Tell 'em,
and
Kev.
so we will have a role in overseeing what's transpiring here. What's real concerning to me is how justice is applied, and is it applied equally? Why do you raid President Trump? His wasn't just lock, was padlock. They knew it was there. They could have come and taken it at any time they wanted. They were communicating with one another. Now we're finding time and again a locked garage door that opens and closes by a push of the button. How many years has
Click.
this vice president who's been in office
Top
for
secret
more
security.
than 40 years had these documents?
You
Who's
get a
been in
frequency
and out
scanner?
of there? This is just hypocrisy, and I'm tired of this Justice Department that we found that
Me
went
too.
after parents and others, that they utilize it to go after people because they have different political beliefs. That is what's wrong with government, and this is a prime example of why we passed this week a new select committee that will fall under Jim Jordan's committee
yes.
for the weaponization of government.
yes.
That we can look into what the FBI has been doing from
Perfect.
Twitter and everywhere else.
That's right. Jim Jordan's going to be in charge of the new Weaponization of Government Committee, and we are looking forward to it. We can't wait until they get started. And so we're going to go over now to Representative Comer, and he is going to walk us through a letter that he sent over to Ronald Klain, which is the White House Chief of Staff. And he's saying, look, we are on that Oversight Committee. Okay, we are now in charge. There's a new president in town of Congress. That's us, boy. In a minute. Right after we talk about our friends over at Goldco, because as you know, I also like gold. I like letters to Congress, from Congress to the White House, but I also like gold. And so we got to talk about it for just a quick, brief minute here. But my friends, if you have an IRA or a 401k or a savings account, things are scary out there. The Biden administration has already printed more money in the past 2 years than the previous 100 years combined. The national debt hit a record $30+ trillion, and inflation is the highest we've seen since 1982. It's only a matter of time until the house of cards comes crashing down. If you have retirement savings, your money could be at serious risk. Talk to my friends at Goldco. See how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver before it's too late. Go to robertlikesgold.com. They'll give you $10,000 or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account. Very easy. robertlikesgold.com. A+ rating with the Better Business Bureaus, and good friends of the show. And I do like gold at robertlikesgold.com. All right, so now let's take a look at what Congress is actually doing. McCarthy says we're in charge, we're coming in hot, and Representative Comer is joining at his flank. Here he is explaining what they're focused on Fox News.
Let's bring in Kentucky Congressman James Comer, chairman of the
National Archives is supposed to brief both the chairman and ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. When Mar-a-Lago was raided, we reached out to National Archives requesting a briefing to know exactly what type of documents Trump supposedly had in his possession and why they triggered a raid on Mar-a-Lago. All they did was refer us to the Justice Department. Here we have Biden doing the same thing with multiple locations. We still have not heard anything from National Archives. It's very disappointing.
Because they don't care. It was never about the books, right? It was never about the library books or the actual documents. It was always about political warfare against your political enemies. So Comer sent a letter in, and we're going to read through that in a quick minute. But let's see what else he says about his new letter.
Who do you worry, Congressman Comer, is on that visitor's log?
Well, it could be anyone, considering all the money the Biden family has received from our adversaries around the world. Your guess is as good as mine. But we know that Hunter Biden lived there for several years. We know that Hunter Biden has a history of having problems with landlords with respect to who he lets in on the premises of different properties that he was leasing. So, we've got a lot of concerns here. Now, you go back to the way the FBI and DOJ handled the Mar-a-Lago raid. They took security camera footage. They took all the videos, so they know exactly who was in and out of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, while they were rummaging through Melania's closet, did they rummage through Jill Biden's closet?
We have no,
because why would they?
no idea who was in and out of President Biden's home. They didn't take security cameras. They never released visitor logs. They didn't raid the residence. In fact, after the general counsel was appointed, we still find out that President Biden's personal attorneys are still rummaging around what essentially would be a crime scene, trying to find information.
Don't even have
to
access.
turn over. So, this whole process has been handled poorly. It shows there's a two-tier system of justice in America, and we want to know exactly who all had access to those classified documents at the Biden home.
Yeah, and there are also questions.
We do want to know exactly who has access to those documents. And so let's take a look at the letter that Representative Comer actually sent over to the White House. January 15th, from the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, now led by Chairman James Comer and Ranking Minority Member Jamie Raskin. The letter goes over to Mr. Ron Klain, White House Chief of Staff for the Biden White House. The letter says, Dear Mr. Klain, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability is continuing to investigate President Biden and his mishandling of classified documents, highly classified. It is troubling that classified documents have been improperly stored at the home of President Biden for at least 6 years, raising questions about who may have reviewed or had access to classified information. Additionally, President Biden's personal attorneys who do not possess security clearances and White House staff continue to access and search the president's residence in Wilmington, Delaware for classified documents. Comer says, given the serious national security implications, the White House must provide the Wilmington's residence visitor log. Now, there's debate about this. I think their response is we don't keep visitor logs for private residences, so we don't have one. He says, as Chief of Staff, you are the head of executive office of the president, and you bear responsibility to be transparent with the American people on these important issues relating to your handling of this matter. President Biden's mishandling of classified materials raises the issue of whether he has jeopardized our national security. Without a list of individuals who have visited his residence, the American people will never know who had access to these highly sensitive documents. The committee demands transparency into whether any individuals with foreign connections to the Biden family gained access to the Biden residence and the classified documents that he mishandled for years. The committee, now in Republican control, is also concerned that White House aides and President Biden's personal attorneys searched the Wilmington residence, knowing that the DOJ was already investigating the matter, which is a great point. If they already found the documents at Penn Biden Center back in November, they kind of knew they had a document problem, right? Like, that's not supposed to be there. Okay. Be very careful when you open up all of the rest of these cabinets and seat cushions. So then at that point, you say, maybe we should be careful with all of our documents everywhere. They probably sat Joe down and said, Joe, listen, we need one answer from you. Your political life depends on it. Where are the documents? It's like a scene out of a thriller. Joe Biden looks closely at his lawyer and slowly a tiny drop of drool falls from his lip. Ugh! They'd have no idea, so they have to continue to rummage around everywhere in order to find these things. Personal lawyers for the president first discovered classified documents at the Penn Biden Center on November 2nd. The National Archives informed the DOJ of Biden's improper storage of documents on November 4th. Our timeline matches that. On November 14th, Merrick Garland tasked Attorney John Lausch with reviewing whether a special counsel should be appointed. Despite that Department of DOJ initiating its review of the matter, reports indicate that the White House staff and President Biden's attorneys continued to search his property. On December 20th, over 1 month after Mr. Lausch began his review, only then did Biden's personal lawyers notify Mr. Lausch of additional classified documents that were found. So my question is, my understanding was, we're still trying to figure out when they found that second batch of documents. They found the original batch on the 2nd, which we learned over the weekend. Then they called the DOJ on the 4th. On the 14th, then they appointed John Lausch. December 20th, over 1 month afterwards, they found additional classified documents. But I thought they found them on that day. Like, I don't know if they found them earlier and then delayed before they, I don't think that's what happened, but I don't know. On January 5th, Mr. Lausch notified Attorney General that a special counsel was warranted, and that came from Garland's statement. That notification still did not dissuade the president's lawyers from accessing his residence. Yes, they went back to Delaware, into Wilmington, on January 11th and January 12th, accessing his residence then. On January 12th, the Attorney General then announced the appointment of Robert Hur, the special counsel. Nonetheless, President Biden has also returned to Delaware this weekend without any reported law enforcement ever conducting an independent search for classified materials. Yeah, Biden did go home this weekend. He went to another residence. In fact, we have his schedule readily available, and so we can confirm that. You see, out of pool call. He arrives at the White House. That was this morning. From Monday the 16th, arrives back at the White House tonight. He was out of town, though. President arrives in Newcastle, Delaware. That was on Sunday, 3:40. On Friday, received the daily briefing, and then he departs and arrives in Delaware. All right, so he's still sort of flying all over the place. I guess my question is, are they tracking him down to try to see if there are documents falling out of his pants? On January 10th and 13th, 2023, the committee, this one, wrote the White House counsel's office to inform the White House that the committee here in Congress, our committee now, has initiated an investigation into Biden's possession of highly classified documents from his time as VP. This letter is a supplement to those requests. So Comer says, all right, Ronald Klain. He says, all right, Ron, to assist the committee in investigating Biden's mishandling of classified info, we need these materials no later than January 30th. Number one, all documents and communications related to the searches of Biden's home and other locations by Biden aides for classified documents, including but not limited to the dates of the searches and the identity of the aides. The visitor log of Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home from January 2021 to present. To schedule delivery of responsive documents, please give us a phone call. And we remind you, sir, that the Committee on Oversight is the principal oversight committee of the U.S. House of Representatives, and we have broad authority to investigate any matter at any time under the House rules. Thank you for your prompt attention to this important investigation. Sincerely, James Comer. Copied to Slippery Jamie Raskin, formerly on the January 6th Select Committee. So what Ronald Klain will very likely do with this is turn it over to the White House counsel. The White House counsel will just take a look at it, probably laugh about it, maybe fold it up, use it as a coaster, or just put it right in the shredder. Don't know. Then it will be up to the Republicans to do something else about it, but it is a good start. We always like a nice letter. So that's from Comer. Release the logs. It's being demanded. And the White House is having a difficult time communicating about this, which is largely why they are not communicating about it, because it's so difficult for them to craft together a cohesive narrative. But some Democrats are out there explaining their take on this. One that we're familiar with is called Adam Schiff, lovingly known here as Pencil Neck Watermelon Head. He was on ABC, and he was asked about this. Hey, Adam, you are somebody who was on the Intelligence Committee for a long time, probably getting booted off there pretty soon. And you were pretty hysterical when Donald Trump had those documents. Do you feel the same way about Joe Biden now?
The White House knew about this on November 2nd. So that was almost a full week before the midterm elections. We didn't learn about it. The public wasn't informed until this week. And it was only after the story was out there, reporters were asking questions. Should they have been more forthcoming? Should this information have been revealed earlier?
Yes.
I think the administration will need to answer that question. I'm going to reserve judgment until they do. But I think it's important to point out.
I'm going to reserve judgment until they do. But you just sounded like you judged them. They will have to answer that question, but I'm going to reserve judgment until they do. So they should answer that question, though, I guess.
Earlier?
I think the administration will need to answer that question. I'm going to reserve judgment until they do. But I think it's important to point out that the Biden approach was very different in the sense that it looks, as far as we can tell, that it was inadvertent that these documents were in these locations.
Inadvertent. All right, so it looks very different. Trump is a criminal monster who is a Republican, by the way, and he is a threat to our eternal reign and power. But he deserves to be punished, and Joe Biden doesn't, because Joe Biden's an innocent, nice guy. Here is more Adam Schiff. Now, to Adam Schiff credit on this one, he's having a difficult time splitting this one apart. Remember, when Donald Trump had those classified documents gobbled up, they demanded a damage assessment so that they could what the heck? Okay, the stream is like super delayed over on YouTube. Strange. All right. So anyways, we're here with Adam Schiff.
You raised the possibility
Schiff.
of this national security assessment. Is it possible that national security was jeopardized here as many, including you, raised that possibility with the Mar-a-Lago documents?
I don't think we can exclude the possibility without knowing more of the facts. We have asked for an assessment in the intelligence community of the Mar-a-Lago documents. I think we ought to get that same assessment of the documents found in the think tank as well as the home of President Biden. I'd like to know what these documents were.
Me
I'd like
too.
to know what the IC's assessment is, whether there was any risk of exposure and what the harm would be and whether any mitigation needs to be done. I think that would be appropriate and consistent with what we requested in the case of Mar-a-Lago.
That's true. Actually, that's fair. He did say that, right? It is consistent. It is consistent. That's all we're asking for. We're asking for consistent standards. Now, why is he flipping on this one all of a sudden? You know, he's one of the most partisan hacks ever. Are they trying to get rid of Joe Biden? Are they trying to get rid of him? Does he want to see him gone? Do they all want to see him gone? Because there's a little bit of a flipperoo kind of a thing happening here around the margins. I mean, like, or what, are they just consistent? Like he's just being consistent, like Adam Schiff is just being consistent because he thinks standards should apply evenly to both parties? Come on. Come on, that's ridiculous. Like it's not just he's being, fair. That's ridiculous. So what else is it, obviously? I think it's they probably want Joe Biden gone because it can't be that, That's nonsense. All right, here's another individual. This was a fun clip because he got hit with a pretty interesting question. CBS Face the Nation is also wondering why Joe Biden is botching this so badly. They asked this representative, any idea why his lawyers who don't have security clearances would be rummaging around his offices looking for documents that they're not supposed to see?
Can you explain to me, for the search that we just laid out that was happening at the president's home, for the current president, his Wilmington home on Thursday, why would he send lawyers who don't have a security clearance to search for classified material?
I'm not sure, and we don't know the circumstances of that, but certainly the documents leave the vice president's office and have to be stored somewhere.
They do have to be stored somewhere. And so Joe Biden's seat cushions are just about as good as anything else. I don't know. I don't know why. And she hit him with that question, poor guy. You can see that little, wasn't real prepared for that answer on that one.
Why would he send lawyers who don't have a security clearance to search for classified material?
I'm not sure.
No idea.
And we don't know the circumstances of that. But certainly the documents leave the vice president's office and have to be stored somewhere.
Sometimes you just get tired of carrying boxes. Honestly, it's like, gosh, I got a whole stack of mail somewhere that I'm pretty sure I don't need to respond to any of this, pretty sure I'm good. But then, your electricity goes off or something and you're like, oh, I should have paid that bill, or something like that. Like, is that what Joe Biden did here? He's like, I'll return those documents later. Just put them in the stack, put them in the stack. And then 6 years go by and the stack just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You got to store them somewhere, man. All right. So now it's not just a couple of these Democrats who are asking or being, dealt difficult questions. We also have this individual. Remember Andrew Weissman? Yes, he went to NYU Law. He works over at MSNBC. He spent 20 years at the DOJ, 10 as a defense attorney, he says, okay. Lifetime inveterate New Yorker. New York Times bestseller. And he's got 220,000 followers on Twitter. And like many Democrat lawyers, you'll notice that they do this thing where they put their dogs in their profile, which I love dogs too. It's a nice, and he has a painting of his dog as well. Isn't that something? It's just beautiful. So, I'm sure it's a real good boy or girl, beautiful young gal, but it's just these profile pics. It's just an interesting thing. It's all I can say. It's just interesting. There's other guys who do it too. You know who we're talking about. All right. So I guess that's the point, but he makes public appearances and all sorts of stuff, right? That's who he is. So he's not afraid to get out there in public. Now, here is what he posted about this most recent development. And Weissman is very, very aggressive towards Trump. And he was the person, we played many clips of him melting down. He's going to prison. He's got indictments coming, basically guaranteed, basically was promising an indictment more or less in the analysis that we covered here, generalizing his statements. But he said this: the White House keeps digging a hole deeper. Uh-oh. This is the current White House, not the Trump White House. This got 2.6 million views. Uh-oh. Keeps digging a hole deeper. True. They have failed to answer so many questions, which is a very strange thing if all of this is an innocent mistake. Total number of government docs found and precisely where, and what levels of classification. Why wasn't this all revealed in November or December? Great questions, Andrew. And so I gave that one a nice big like because it's a very, very good question. Now, his followers are unhappy with him. Lori says, "Oh, I guess you're done with this president? You have known about everything for years. You have knowingly lied to the public. The change of tone hints that you guys have picked your next candidate. You can't keep covering for the big guy." And they're unhappy with him. And so it's a lot of fun as the tables turn. Democrats are angry. Or are they turning? Or are they just waiting for the dust to settle? We'll see. Our attention now turns over to the White House, where Biden was giving some speeches today on the very honorable MLK Day. And here's what he had to say when asked about guns. He said that, first of all, we're getting rid of assault weapons, and then we're going to bring our F-15s and nuke any of you MAGA extremist dissenters out there who challenge our reign.
I'm going to get assault weapons banned. I did it once. I'm going to do it again. There's no social redeeming value. Deer aren't wearing.
Hold that mic away from your face there, Joe.
What the hell you need a assault? No, I'm serious. And ban the number of bullets that go in a magazine. There's no need for any of that.
No need.
I love my right-wing friends who talk about the tree of liberty is water with the blood of patriots. If you need to work about taking on the federal government, you need some F-15s.
F-15s.
You don't need an AR-15. I'm serious. Think about it. Think about the rationale for this. It's about money.
It's about money. Guns are about money. Yeah, all right. So that's his clip on this day. And he also sang a very interesting song. So while the sort of political world is melting down around him, he's working on assault weapons. But he also sang an interesting song today. And let's follow along. Of course, we like to celebrate birthdays. But there was an interesting song that the president sang today. Of course, we know that Martin Luther King's wife, Martin Luther King III's wife, her name is Andrea Waters King. You can see it right there highlighted in blue. Arndrea. There was a group song of happy birthday that was supposed to be sung for this woman, Andrea Waters King. Her birthday is January 6th. And so happy birthday, Andrea Waters King. Happened to fall on Martin Luther King's birthday. Isn't that beautiful? And so Biden was there today. at an MLK breakfast. It was hosted by the very infamous Reverend Al Sharpton. And it was Andrea's birthday. And Biden led the group in a beautiful song.
But congratulations today, the honorees, including your wife, who I understand is a birthday today?
Amazing.
Well, look, my wife has a rule in her family. When somebody's birthday, you sing happy birthday. You ready?
Ready, boys?
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, beautiful.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you. Well, it's hell turning 30, but you got to.
It's hell turning 30. It's hell turning 30. Valerie? Vanessa?
Happy birthday. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you. Well, it's hell turning 30, but you got to.
Happy birthday. All right. Yay. Happy birthday. All right, my friends. And so that is our president. Of course, we will continue to follow all of the confidential documents, dilemmas that continue to unfold. Thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. Thank you for subscribing and following us along as we cover this. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.